Good afternoon, everybody. It's 3 o'clock on October 11th here in Boston, Massachusetts, and welcome to another Teikametrics roundtable discussion. We are excited. This is our first super series. We thought long and hard about, how do we try and deliver, a bit more valuable in the most valuable time of the year. And Q4 is the most valuable time of the year. If you're selling, you better have your P's and Q's on point. So we've done something pretty unique this go around. So we've got folks in the room, so we'll walk around the table in terms of who's in the room here for Teikametrics. But we also have some very special guests. We deal with thousands of sellers at Teikametrics, and we're very fortunate to be able to talk to a lot of different brands. But we're very, very honored today to have a couple of folks that have been doing really well on Amazon for some time to be able to share their great knowledge. So we get that just in a moment. As a reminder, my name is Andy Coughlin. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer here, head of seller growth, as we're changing titles here shortly, just to focus on the importance of the seller. I generally act as the MC here, so we're going to pass around the microphone as we typically do, but we'll also encourage you to have as many questions as possible, particularly during this series, because it is the most critical time of the year, and we wanted to allow some time to do that. So around the room to my left.
Hey everyone, my name is Mike Indigaro. I've been at Teikametrics now for 2 years. Have a background in retail, was previously working with Deloitte and Touche. Excited to be here talking with you all today.
Yeah, hey, I'm not on the slides, but this is Will Johnson. I head brand over here at Teikametrics. Really happy to have you guys on board. We're going to be covering a ton of great topics, so ask as many questions as you want. We have people on staff to answer them, and yeah, let's get to it.
And across the table, we have the lovely Megan.
Hello, I'm Megan Gleason. I'm part of the customer success team at Teikametrics, and I've been part of the Teika team for 2 years now.
Yeah, and without further ado, so guys and gals, thanks very much for joining the call today. Further ado, we've got two multi-million-dollar brands on the phone with us. We've got Leron and Mike. These guys have their own companies. They've got a couple of different brands on Amazon, and they just really were, they're friends and customers of Teikametrics. They just were kind enough to get on the phone and really answer any questions that the audience has and deliver as much wisdom. So Leron and Mike, please say hello.
Hi, everybody. Looking forward to sharing with you on the call.
Yeah, same here. And any questions, we're always happy to help.
Awesome. And just for the group, just so you kind of put a voice to the face, Michael was the last one to speak there. So just to make sure everybody's on the same page. And we're ready to kick it off. Again, as many questions as you got, nothing's off the table. We'll be able to get to those as quick as we can. And as I think just a reminder that I'm going to pass to Mike, what we want to be able to do is to kind of set you up. Hey, here's what we're hoping to deliver in terms of the goals today. So we'll kind of walk through that. We'll get to an agenda, but then we're going to round out at the end of the conversation just to make sure we've delivered on the things that we promised you at the beginning of the conversation. So Mike, over to you.
Excellent. Thanks, Andy. So today with our webinar, we want to go through and establish a few webinar goals. Especially around holiday season and Q4, it's all about velocity, keeping your best products in stock. So one of the top goals, keep your best sellers in stock. We're going to show you ways in which you can maintain profitability, properly setting customer expectations. This is probably one of the highest selling periods across all platforms is on Amazon. You want to be delighting your customers, giving them the best experience possible. Give your products visibility during the increase in traffic. So how can you optimize for price, advertising, to really get your products out there in the Amazon world? So we'll start off with a quote. This is from Deloitte, actually. So sales during the holiday season are likely to increase in the band of 4 to 5%, while e-commerce is looking to be improved by about 18 to 20%. And we've done a few different polls of data from our sellers and see that between September and January are probably the highest percentage of revenue months among sellers that we deal with. So those months they're selling most of their units.
So for today's agenda, what we're going to be covering in the webinars, we want to take you all the way from starting out with forecasting your products, getting that into FBA, so with some important Q4 dates, and all the way at the end to the customer experience and touching upon a pricing strategy, planning your promotions, pricing those properly, and also reviewing your product page details, providing, delighting your customers there, and then also getting that visibility, like Mike said, through advertising.
And just quickly to get the guys on the phone engaged, we prep for the call, of course, but Leron and Mike, when you looked at the agenda, are we missing anything? Or some things we can maybe put in the parking lot to cover a little bit later? Or do you feel pretty good about how we're going to go through the webinar?
Sounds good to me.
Awesome. I really like it. I definitely think it's all about preparation. I know we're pretty early in just it's October, but November is just around the corner. So I think it's really important to do this early and all about preparation of everything. So whatever we're covering here is great to do, though.
Yep, and one thing to kind of note is that preparation is there's different perspective of preparation for every type of seller, because if you're importing from China and you have a 40 to 50 day lead time and you're shipping by boat, then you needed to have already started the preparation. And if you're buying wholesale from within the US, then maybe you don't have to start your preparation yet. So you kind of need to have a good pulse of your own product and inventory on when you need to start preparing for peak sales.
And Leon, I love it, and I think it's thank you for giving us kind of the broad swath there, because as we said before, on the call we've got folks that have been doing this for some time, folks that are brand new. They're all going to have different methodologies, so we're going to cover as many as we can.
Yeah, and Leon, that's a great segue into what we want to discuss here, and it would be great to get both of your perspectives on how you all use data, trends, customer demand to forecast your product. And what we've put up here is sort of a timeline and a few points that you want to be reviewing over the course of the pre-holiday season, using historical data. Of course, using historical data implies that you are an existing seller. Can you, Leron, walk us through why historical data is important to you all? Do you guys use it very thoroughly in your forecasting for the holiday season?
Yes, I definitely use historical data, but I also always overestimate. Because if you look at Amazon, you look at the Amazon customer and Prime keeps going every year. Every year, if you look at days like Prime Day or Black Friday or Cyber Monday, they exceed the estimates from what the previous year was. And so I think it's a mistake to say, last year I sold 1,000 units during this time. I'm going to order just that amount. And you also need to have inventory for January. And again, if you're importing from China, you have things like Chinese New Year. And so I always go on the side of overestimating, because I feel like I can't go wrong. On the worst case, I'll have inventory set for after the holiday season. So I look at historical data, and even if I wasn't selling a particular product per se, I use things, for example, like Keepa. So Keepa.com, you can download their Chrome extension for free, and you can look at other products, and if they've been around on Amazon, then you can see what their sales rank and velocity was like, the previous year. I'm also making notes this year on what's selling well on products that I haven't imported, but what products my competitors have brought in that now I see are starting, and will be into November and December, what their sales velocity is like, and keeping a list of, hey, I didn't bring this product in this year, but I probably should for next year, because these are products that are maybe seasonally selling really well during this time of year. So yeah, definitely looking at things like your sessions, your conversions through the business reports that you're showing up on the screen now for how you're doing now, and then estimating what does my category sell like during Q4. You might have toys, and in toys maybe you're selling 5x, but maybe in industrial and scientific you're only selling 2x or maybe 1.5x. So I think sort of analyzing your particular category, historical data, and overestimating is a good recipe.
I definitely agree with that. Another thing I would just mention is, in the past we've always tried to really use historical data to plan for the future, but as technology grows and more people are coming on Amazon and other platforms and online in general, it's very hard to estimate. We've always just estimated more, 10, 20% more. Now, with Amazon's increased storage fees, that's another issue. And it's a balancing act that we're doing every day, every month. And it's something that Teikametrics has helped us with, but it's something that is still a challenge for us every day.
Well, guys, thank you again. What I love is in some ways just certainly the value that you both are already bringing. But what's interesting is, I don't want to get too specific into what you guys are selling, but Michael, you're focused on kind of this outdoor portable filtration. That's your category, right? You're super passionate about that. Are you just doubling down in that space? And before you kind of frame your answer, Leron, it sounds like you may be category agnostic. You're sort of using some data to figure out what may be hot, and you may be going to a category that you're not in today. So maybe, Michael, to pass to you first, like what are you thinking?
I mean, we've always just had a really steady stream of keyword research and planning. We don't let external things really affect the day-to-day planning though, but definitely on a yearly basis, we really look at that, I'd say, at the end towards.
Okay.
And for me, I don't just necessarily jump around to the hottest product. I have a couple of brands, but within those brands, there's opportunities that I haven't yet, exploited. And so, I look at the data to see what opportunities there are, to bring a product in. Selling on Amazon is different than any other platform. Evaluating your competition, I think is a major component. So I look within my niche and my brand, what opportunities are there for products that I can bring in either seasonally, or that I can bring, in over, just after the season is over, and kind of ramp up and prepare for next year.
And so I know we're gonna keep going, so sorry to belabor, but for both you guys, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but what I'm hearing, maybe the takeaway for the group is maybe go deep in your niche or in your category rather than go wide. That's sort of what I'm taking away. Is that fair?
For me, I go deep. I think it's a type of seller that you are, but yeah, for me, if I have a confidence, and especially in Q4, it's easier to have that confidence. Then yeah, I definitely go deep within a product, and then I try to leverage the various marketing offers that are available within Amazon, like lightning deals, for example, and various kind of promotions that you could do on Amazon to leverage and just generate a high sales velocity.
Awesome. And I know we have a lot of sellers on the call today that are relatively new to Amazon. If you guys can think back to when you started on Amazon, what time period did you start in? Do you think starting, around the holiday season is beneficial given the 5x increase in traffic?
So when I started, I started kind of late 2014, and I didn't fully, by the time I got product in, it was like middle of December, so I didn't really fully experience Q4. I think if you start a little, if you start like in the summer, for example, which may be slower for some areas, by the time Q4 comes around, you'll have some good knowledge. But definitely starting now and getting some products in, you have much lower risk, right? Just because I look at Q4 as like everybody's birthday, right? There's so much more demand that you can take some gambles without necessarily knowing every single thing about the platform, and still at worst case be able to sell your product and probably at the worst case break even, or make some profit. And I started at the end of 2014 by going into stores and doing arbitrage, buying products and selling them. So it's very, very different from what I do now, which is importing my products from China. But I think getting your feet wet into Amazon if you haven't started is a great idea, and there's no better time with less risk than Q4.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Definitely, in terms of timing, I would just say as well, like any brand and any products you really want to do, you'd hope for staying power. You'd hope that it would last longer than a year. You don't want just the quick rich scheme. You'd rather just like build a brand and really work on it. So you should be planning for a couple of years in the future anyways. Where do you see the brand in the future? So where if you start now, if you start next year, I think it really just matters to start. Like that's the most important, I would say.
Great. And we're going to start our first poll here just to get a pulse on the audience. How are you forecasting for the holidays? So Megan's launched that poll now.
Launch the poll. The choices we have here are last holiday season sales data, current sales data, so that current sales rate, even looking at Prime Day, and then your intuition, your best guess there. So keep this poll open for a little bit longer to everyone cast their vote. And Pretty interesting here. We're actually seeing a lot of people going towards last holiday season sales data, so historical data.
Yeah, very powerful. And again, for the group, we've got a number of polls today. Everything's anonymous, so you don't have to worry about any of that kind of stuff. So please participate. So thanks so much for participating in this one. And Megan, what are the, maybe you can share the results?
Yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and close the poll, share the results with everyone. So 42% last holiday season sales data, and trailing behind that is 30% with current sales rate data, so how their products are currently trending. So
Did we ask about Prime Day?
Yeah, and that's actually only 6% of sellers are using that Prime Day data, that Prime Week too.
That is interesting. Yeah, Leron, Michael, you guys have a thought on that? Like, is the group in line? Are you using historical data for planning for this for Q4, I suppose?
Yes,
I think they're in line with it.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's historical data and what your current sales are. Prime Day is tough also because it's in like middle of the summer, so the products that sell well then might be different in my opinion.
Seasonality. Okay, yeah, gotcha. Awesome. Cool. All right, Mike.
Cool. So the next thing that I want to discuss is avoiding stockouts. Obviously, it's really a burden when your product goes out of stock on Amazon. So, what are the detrimental aspects of going out of stock? It's losing sales, losing rank, but also upsetting your customers. Imagine you have a loyal customer and Amazon's your only platform. They can't purchase your product. You're potentially upsetting them because they can't buy your product, but they might be going to a competitor. The second is reviewing your stockouts from the prior year. And Leron and Michael, I'd like your take on this. Certainly when I think about stockouts, I try to look at last year and see what the sales velocity would have been like if I had been in stock. So what is the opportunity cost? Is that something that you guys go back and look at to see, a certain product I went out of stock and maybe projecting how much you would have sold through if it was in stock? Do you take that into consideration in forecasting this year?
Yeah, so I absolutely do. When I was planning out my orders for this year's season, one of the first things I went and looked at my history, of sales for last year, and kind of looked at how many units I sold for a particular product. Did I have enough units in stock? So that's definitely a huge factor in determining. And I kind of go with the 80-20 rule. So my top 20% of my products, generally are producing 80% of my revenue. And those products, I absolutely never, ever want to go out of stock on those products. And so I make sure to kind of double down and make sure I have more than enough inventory for my top 20%, because those are my bread and butter winners. And I always make sure that, one of my goals at least, is to always make sure that I never run out of stock on those top 20% of products, because the loss from being out of stock, the days out of stock, then the days you need to sort of recover to get back into your ranking position can really cost you a lot of money. So I would say, depending on what your inventory portfolio looks like, if you only have a few SKUs, it's a little bit easier. If you have 100, 200, 500 SKUs, then you need to make sure that, your top sellers are always in stock.
Excellent. And lastly, with avoiding stockouts, I think of using levers in Amazon that you can pull to sort of adjust that inventory and sales velocity. Two that come to mind: advertising and price. So if you're selling through items too slowly, you may want to test on price and advertising. If you are selling through quickly and you're at the risk of stocking out, you may want to slow down your ads to make sure that the remaining units you're selling are selling organically and not through paid advertising. Michael, that's something that I know we've spoken about advertising before. Is that something that you take into consideration as you get to lower inventory levels?
Definitely what Leron was saying about the 80-20. I focus on that. I think that's the number one thing I do out of any other things, because it really does, you'll have those best sellers that really help drive in the traffic to your whole storefront, I find. And those are the ones that you should focus on. And as long as they're in stock, all the other ones and all the other stuff doesn't really matter. Just in terms of inventory, we would lower our marketing spend as well to like kind of taper the sales if we need to, if we find that our sales are going down, or our inventory is going down. And one of the important things to note as well with Amazon is it can take like 30 days once you even put it in there for Amazon to replenish the stock sometimes, especially if they're preparing it or doing anything. So you should take that into consideration as well.
And for me, I kind of like to go out with a bang. So in my experience, I don't stop any of the marketing, because when I go out of stock, I want to go out with the best sales rank I can, and I find that helps you recover your position better when you do come back into stock. Couple tips that I've heard is that and a lot of sellers I think are afraid to do this, but if you do go out of stock, you can actually go into your listing and inventory management and actually close the listing. It doesn't remove it or anything or delete it, but apparently it stops data gathering. And when you get back into stock, you just open it back up, and you can get your rank positioning back a little bit faster that way, because Amazon's sort of not taking into account the out of stock days because you've closed the listing. So kind of like a pro tip on managing that.
Yeah, so that's a really good one.
That's great. And now, just working off of replenishment, diving into some key dates, especially around shipping, getting that inventory to FBA. So diving into October. So October just starting, a lot of sellers don't think of it as a key month to really focus on for holiday sales, especially with preparation. So something that just actually took effect is storage fee increases. So this is actually in effect from October all the way to the end of December. So this is huge because standard size and oversized, their cubic foot rates are going up dramatically. So really finding that balance, I know one of you mentioned that, between higher storage fees and also that processing time into fulfillment centers. So really being able to have that lean inventory and have that right projection for sending inventory in. So also a reminder at the bottom, box contents. So this wasn't actually around this time last year. It started around mid-holiday season. So keeping in mind to always have your box contents together for your shipments, because it'll also just really speed up that processing time as well. So this will really impact your bottom line if you don't remember that as well. So storage fees, always be factoring in that with the Amazon FBA fees as well.
And Megan, you're going to get to it, I'm sure, so I'll steal your thunder for a moment. We've got a takeaway.
Yes, yep. So we're actually going to send out a calendar of all these key dates with the replay. So you'll always have, just at a glance, really key dates you should be focusing on, especially with shipping. So with November, this is where it gets a little more busier. Sales are picking up, especially with Black Friday and Cyber Monday. There's actually, Amazon is putting a deadline in place for inventory to arrive at fulfillment centers no later than November 7th. And this is huge just because everyone's sending in their inventory. So we actually recommend sending all that inventory for December in November. So getting this, in FBA early, and also getting our November inventory in October. So making sure that's all settled, and also keeping in mind that box contents even goes up here with the fees. So
and just for the group, just remind everybody what box contents, what that is.
Yep, so that's just basically a pack list for FBA when you send that to the fulfillment center saying, hey, this is what's in my shipment, so they're prepared for it.
I think an important part of understanding this timeline is that every event that occurs is another opportunity for you to increase your bottom line. So I know a lot of sellers might end up, just being in there for Cyber Monday. They might not look at Black Friday as well. They might also not think about Thanksgiving if they are more in like the cooking type of section where people are really buying stuff like that. So making sure that you have all those dates sort of set up is going to really increase your overall sales, and it's something that you can take advantage of if you're prepared.
Being proactive, just in case for those higher processing times as it's increased compared to, say, middle of summer. So looking at December, one of the bigger holiday months here, Amazon actually has in place December 1st as a deadline for December inventory to hit FBA. So we recommend, again, shipping your December inventory in November, being proactive and on top of it, just in case those higher processing times do affect you. And also, a lot of sellers actually don't really consider a lot of January as a key month for selling. A lot of sellers don't realize that customers also have these gift cards they're returning and also getting credit for Amazon. So actually preparing for your January inventory in December, being really proactive here and sending in after they actually have that December 17th deadline as earliest inventory should be sent in for that.
And also if you're importing from China, you want to make sure that early December, at probably the latest, is when you start putting in those orders, because Chinese New Year is in February, and if you don't get your orders finished before Chinese New Year, you're waiting till after March. That happened to me the first quarter of this year. I was out of stock on several products that I didn't get in time, and that caused my first quarter not to be as good as it should be. So if you are importing from China, it's good to keep yourself updated on Chinese holidays. For example, October 1st to 8th was a fall festival, and I have shipments that are not going out this coming week, that I had to wait for. So knowing those dates if you're importing from other countries, I think is important.
Yeah,
that's great.
Super helpful.
So January, one of the months that a lot of sellers forget about. So really keep in mind that, especially with the holiday return policy now, a lot of sellers don't see that returns are going to be still filtering into the end of January, even though the order may have been placed in November. So don't close your books yet. We actually recommend really waiting until mid-February to really see that real top line sales, rather than saying, hey, let's look at November right now. How did I do? Because those returns really do impact sellers such as clothing, shoes, especially when you're ordering multiple sizes, colors, styles there. So definitely don't close your books yet and wait until
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point, and we try to reiterate, pretty much every webinar to incorporate a returns allowance into your P&L. So I'm curious, maybe Michael, you give it a shot. Do you think about that relative to your P&L? Do you incorporate, a 10 or 20% returns allowance? I think what Megan's saying is so important. Don't close your books. I think for two reasons. There's one, top line sales, but most importantly, profitability. So I'm curious, maybe Michael, you take a crack, and then Leroy, I'd like to hear your point of view about how you're incorporating returns into your methodology.
I mean, we definitely account for returns, and because we have a large amount of sales, there is a large amount of returns. But really, for us, like we have a lifetime warranty on our products. We actually even do returns if somebody complains to us a year later. Like, the cost of losing an Amazon customer to us is not worth the hassle, the time, and the stress personally of dealing with that. So yes, we would account for it, but in general, we do returns a year later. Really, I know some other sellers might not, but it's just something we've always done, and we've had a lot of success. We find that a lot of people, like, either they'll feel bad about the return, or like we have a no questions asked policy, and we really try to enforce that.
That's amazing.
That's great.
Yeah, to add to that, to Michael's point, I think that's a really great point. As far as things like lifetime warranty, we do the same thing on our products, and we make sure that's a major thing that we put into our bullet points, because that we think it gives us an edge over the competition that might not put anything, or might just put 30-day money back guarantee. We also have sort of like lifetime no questions asked, and I think the amount of additional conversions you get for the actual returns that I mean, I don't remember what I bought last week on Amazon or who I bought it from, right? So if you look at it, I wouldn't be afraid to make those kind of guarantees on your products. And yeah, we do take returns into account. Obviously, you have to take into account Amazon's fees, storage fees, and a percentage of returns, I think, based on the category. If you're in clothing and shoes, it's going to be, probably a 10 to 15% return rate, as opposed to maybe a home and kitchen type product that might be 5% or less. So definitely take into account in your margins returns.
Yeah, very, very helpful.
Great, thanks guys. And then we also just have a couple of shipping suggestions, just bouncing off of some of those shipping deadlines. Just always allow for enough shipping lead time, especially like you guys said, if you're shipping from overseas, that's huge to really factor in that lead time, especially with your days of coverage in FBA as well. And then also just to be extra cautious, assume your shipment is going to the farthest fulfillment center. So if you're on the East Coast, just assume it's going to maybe California or somewhere on the West Coast, just to be proactive there. And you know, just with that higher processing time, we work with a lot of sellers, and we've heard actually some report probably around 10 days for that inventory to be checked in. So just really being prepared for that higher processing time. Even with box contents, that's going to speed it up in relation to holiday time last year. However, compared to the remainder of the year, such as middle of the summer, definitely a lot slower with that processing time.
Another tip on shipping times is that shipping LTL or FTL is going to take longer to check in than shipping, you know, UPS or FedEx. So if, you know, you may want to, it may cost you a little bit more to ship FedEx, UPS versus LTL, FTL, but you might get your products checked in much faster that way. So kind of evaluate both costs when you're, you know, setting up your shipments. If it's large enough for, you know, less than truckload, and kind of determine, you know, if it makes sense not to ship LTL to get it checked in faster.
Great, guys.
That's great.
And we're going to launch the second poll, but Liron, I'll ask you, since we're kind of trailing in that direction, how often are you shipping during the holidays? I mean, with using LTL, it is a lot of work. How many times did you ship last year? How much are you projecting to ship this year to FBA?
Yeah, so I mean, definitely over 4. I mean, you know, many times probably, but you know, I personally don't do any of the shipping. So my freight forwarder, so if a product comes in from China, if it's going LTL, my freight forwarder will either have a partner pickup, or they'll truck it into Amazon themselves, or I'll have my supplier put UPS or FedEx labels on it already, and they'll get it to them. So I kind of outsource all that work. And, you know, being a small, you know, small operation, it's a lot easier to outsource the kind of prep and pack work. So I don't have a warehouse. I outsource all of it, but I'll definitely have, you know, this year, you know, probably, I don't know, maybe in the realm of, including the shipments I've had, I don't know, 10 shipments into Amazon, something in that realm.
And what about you, Michael?
I'll be honest, I'm not in that department. I really don't know. Sorry. Quite a few shipments. It's most likely, but I don't have a final answer. But I know they plan it much in advance. You know, months in advance of when they really need it, or else you'll have that stock out issue.
Yeah, and both of your answers are with the majority. So about 60% of sellers here today are shipping more than 4 times, and it makes sense. There's several different holidays happening. There's the being out of stock, maybe nearing that. You never want to do that. You could be rushing some shipments in there. So it makes sense that it's over 4. So we're going to move on here and just round it out. So again, these are the Q4 key shipping dates. Again, to have your products online at Amazon, you want to make sure that you have your shipments in by these dates. A lot of you have already gotten that done. Maybe you're shipping early into September and October, but for Black Friday and Cyber Monday, November 7th, the December holidays, you want to make sure you have inventory there at the 1st, and then inventory for 2018. Amazon, tells you no earlier than December 17th. Again, it's all based on your judgment. You might be skipping the warehouse or your own warehouse and shipping those items directly to fulfillment centers. So you may not have an option there, but you want to be mindful of the different fees that are happening. Obviously, October to December, storage fees increase. So if you can, avoid that in any way to maintain your bottom line, you want to follow these dates.
Yeah, just to build off that. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, sorry. Yeah. So for me, I only focus on this first date here, like November 7th, because I want to get it in, by November 7th, and if I can't get it in, just as soon as I can after that, because December 1st date makes no sense to me. Does that mean it gets checked in by the 25th, or by the 20th? Like, when is that actually going to get checked in? I want to have my products at Amazon by Black Friday at the latest, because that's when kind of peak sales start happening all the way until, the 22nd, right before Christmas. And so I ignore that December 1st date. I just look at that November 7th and I try to get all my products in before or as soon as I can right after that date. The second date to me doesn't make any sense from Amazon.
Right. And Leron, I know you don't utilize your own local warehouse, but Michael, do you utilize a local warehouse? And if so, have you all used seller fulfilled Prime, and do you recommend it?
We do just straight FBA. That's the success we've found. We've never really tried to do our own because we're based in a different country. Like, we're based in Canada. We sell a lot on Amazon.com.
Right.
So it's just we don't have a warehouse that does that, but we just do FBA.
So I know some people that do seller fulfilled Prime. I think the best time to take advantage of that is if you get some product in towards the end of December and you're not going to have time to ship it into Amazon and get it checked in, then putting it up merchant fulfilled and sending it yourself will allow you to get those additional sales that you otherwise would not have gotten if you had shipped into FBA. I think FBA should be your first and best choice, but there are times when if you have that inventory that you can't send in, merchant fulfilled can get you those sales.
Yeah, and just to build off of that, we actually work with a lot of sellers who have said that around 45% of their sales really come from that November to January period. So just really taking advantage of those options, whether you can fulfill it yourself or you have to send it to FBA. That increase in traffic is huge during that time period.
Yeah, and thank you, by the way, because we're getting a ton of questions. One I think that's is relevant relative to shipping and the power of Q4. And maybe Michael, I'll start with you. Some of the questions we're getting is around financing. So let's start with, hey, I found a really cool product. I've got a good brand I was ready to develop, and I want to double down, but I don't have the capital to do it. What's your recommendation in that situation? So Michael, maybe you go first, and then Leron, give us your thoughts, please.
I mean, I'll be honest right now, like, you can do it as a business loan, but if you're just starting out, sometimes, like, if you can't do it with personal capital, like, I found in Canada and in the US, you can get like very cheap home line of credits or personal line of credits. I mean, that's really how I've had to start if you don't have the investment to be able to drop down it. But you can also start with a very low amount of capital, less than $5,000, especially if people haven't. But if they really are building and having to double down, sometimes you do have to just take it out as a credit term. That would be the best option, I think.
And Leon, what are your
Yeah, I mean, I've utilized different types of lending. So if you have an opportunity to take an Amazon loan, the time you're going to make the most money on that loan is during Q4, just because of demand. You can charge higher prices. So if you have an opportunity to take an Amazon loan, that's an option. And then there are other all types of lending websites. Some of the rates are quite high, so I think it's just a risk, and including things like credit cards, or I also have, sometimes you can work out terms with a supplier. Them knowing it's Q4, they might be more willing to try to be flexible with you and at least ask for those terms. Worst case, they'll say no. So there's a variety of options. I think it all depends on your appetite for risk, right? Because you can go and put something on your credit card, but then ask yourself, am I totally, what happens if this product doesn't sell? Am I still going to be okay? Can I make these payments, or am I putting myself in too much, financial risk? So it, kind of all depends on your risk appetite. And, I'd be careful with a little bit too much speculation if you don't really have that experience on Amazon.
Okay, yeah, helpful, guys. Thank you for that.
So let's get into some pricing around the holidays. There's a lot that you can do around pricing, specifically identifying what is your objective going into the holiday. Do you change the price? Do you keep it static? We'll start with you, Michael. Is pricing something that you augment frequently throughout the holiday season, or sort of leave it static?
What happened once, we changed our pricing, we raised it because we were running low of stock. We thought that would slow sales a bit. You know, it's the opposite of what we were talking about earlier, but we actually got several negative reviews of people commenting on the price change. And ever since that day, we never changed it again. You know, we really try to keep it static. What we do change is if we're doing a lightning deal or something else like that. But generally, we've keeping our price like within a couple of dollars up or down.
Okay.
Yep. So for me as a brand, I do target a higher price point during the holidays, but I set a range, you know, that I think is sort of reasonable, so that I don't get those negative reviews. But you know, if I have a product that typically sells for, you know, 27 or 30 bucks, I might sell it for 39.95 and sell more units than ever and take advantage of that, you know, profitability. I probably don't want to sell that product for 50, even if I could, because I'm trying to avoid those negative reviews. So I do target higher pricing. I think depending on what type of seller you are, if you're a seller that's competing for the buy box, or a seller that just, you know, you have your own listings, it kind of depends on what your strategy is. I use a tool called Splitly that has a feature called Profit Peak that actually allows me to set a range of pricing, and based on sales velocity, it will increase or decrease my pricing. So it's not a repricer because it's not competing against anybody, but it increases and decreases my pricing based on sales velocity. So I already have some seasonal products for October that have been selling really well, and you know, again, I typically sell them for 27, 28 bucks, and they're selling for 39 right now. Without any issues at all. So in my opinion, this is not only your time to sell a lot more, it's your time to profit a lot more in Q4.
Yeah,
and again,
really
especially if you're selling somebody else's product, like, you know, wholesale or, you know, some kind of arbitrage, you may not really even care about the reviews. You just want to sell it at the highest price. So it all depends.
Great. So we're actually going to launch a poll to see, you know, what other sellers are doing. So how do you change your pricing during the holidays?
I think this is a good one because I think for a lot of sellers, they might find that by changing the price even $1, they can get bad reviews. Others, you know, might be able to do it quite a bit. So there's not really, I don't think, any right answer for this. But it's good. Well, it'd be really interesting to see, you know, what everybody comes back with here. So
yeah, I think it makes for a pretty good debate. Go ahead, Liron.
Yeah, you know, for me, it's all about, demand, you know, demand and supply. Like, I'm not Macy's. I don't think I need to run like 25% off on Thanksgiving, you know? So, you know, if there's demand, then yeah, I'm raising my price, and I do it within what I think is sort of a reasonable price point where I think the customer still gets good value, but, you know, I can be more profitable.
Yeah, and it looks like results coming in, about 36% don't change price during the holidays.
Interesting.
31% lower price on underperformers. So maybe products that are not selling through as expected, lowering price there. 15% based on profitability, and then 19% raised pricing when products are running out of stock. So I think, Liron, you sort of mentioned it about, you know, keeping an eye on the competition. I know there's some tools out there that sort of help you monitor price. What's your strategy when you are competing on listings with other sellers? You know, I know price is really difficult to compete on because you're just the lowest price wins in the buy box. What other strategies are you taking when you're really competing against someone on the same listing? And then for you, Michael, you know, with your private label brand, how are you competing against just similar products out there on Amazon?
Yeah, so I used to do wholesale. I no longer do that. So I don't compete against other sellers on the same listing, but my advice would be, you know, using a repricer can help you a lot. I think you can, set your minimum price that you're comfortable with. You may early on in Q4, you may not want to try to participate in that race to the bottom. Obviously, as it gets closer to the end of Q4, that might happen if you still have inventory. So you want to really look at pricing. You want to, I think, have a repricer. And hopefully there are other smart sellers on that listing, and the price trends at least up or not down throughout Q4. If it's a product that just too many sellers get into, then you might need to sort of drop the price and maybe get out of it. I was having just a quick side note. I was having a conversation with my brother yesterday and kind of telling him, I'm able to price products higher on private label, similar products than my competition. One of the things he tells me, when I shop on Amazon, I see a higher price, I immediately think better quality. And so that's also something to consider. It's not always, especially prime customers, right, that are a little bit more affluent. They're not always shopping by price only. They look at obviously reviews, but maybe perception works there also.
And what about Amazon Business? I know that's something that we have up here for an actionable tip is if you have products that sell to businesses in bulk, to take advantage of that. Do either of you utilize Amazon Business and enable the B2B sales in your accounts?
I do have it set up. My products are generally not geared specifically for business. I do get sales from business customers, but I've never had that bulk discount option when customers can actually submit a request for a bulk price, or you could set a price of like 10 or more, they get a certain discount off. I do set it up, but I think it really depends, on your product category, like office or industrial and scientific, kind of depending on what your product line is, whether or not that makes sense. But it doesn't hurt to turn it on, it doesn't cost anything.
Right, okay.
Definitely to add on to that, we looked and I think we first heard about this B2B system just from a pop-up on Amazon on Seller Central saying like, if you complete your business profile, you can get this much increase. And it was free, it was easy to do. So I think it took our team less than an hour to actually complete that. It was very easy. If you are doing it, I think just offering that option and then setting up, I think it's like bulk discounts basically. It was very easy to incorporate, and we would do it anyways for a B2C customer, so it was very easy to add.
Yeah, and we'll get into sort of the options around promotions for B2C, and we'll love your input there as well. But changing gears sort of towards pricing for inventory. I know we've talked a little bit about this, so I don't want to go too much into detail here, but the idea of changing your inventory sale through rate is, one way is through pricing. And I think we've all come to an agreement that, and we can debate on this for a while here, but you can find opportunities to increase price, but what you want to be thinking about is what is the impact of price on that customer or on your customer. I think that's super important. If you're selling something that's $20 and you automatically raise it to 40, you're probably going to have a few upset customers there.
Yeah. And also just really focusing on, with pricing, how does that impact demand and also your inventory levels? Too much inventory versus too little inventory, and focusing on your days of coverage, especially with those longer processing times. Are you shipping enough inventory, and are you making that inventory last? If you're not, you can actually, we have an actionable tip here. So if you have a product selling around $20, you're selling one per day, you're forecasting that product to actually sell through in 60 days. However, say you have 30 units left, you're going to sell through in 30 days. So to stretch out that inventory, the suggestion here is to actually raise that price to slow down demand and stretch out that inventory so you're not running out of stock, you're not hurting your sales rank there. So
and that's it's a hypothetical scenario too, and I think the big takeaway is just continue monitoring the effects of your pricing. You may find that even raising your price by 50%, you sell through faster because of the perceived value of your product. So I think the biggest takeaway is really continue to monitor pricing. There's tools of repricing. Do you guys, Michael, do you agree with that?
I really do stick to the same price points. Like we do different pricing, I guess, with discounts or the lightning deals, but those are very time sensitive, and we try to run maybe like a weekly promotion that we can track. But in terms of actually changing the price, like because I guess we're a brand, we're not competing on price necessarily. We would compete more on differentiation and try to say why would they pay a bit more for our product versus the competitor's product.
So do you guys think a lot about the brand side then, sort of showcasing your value in comparison to competitors? Is that how you sort of differentiate?
Yeah, we try to find, a feature of our products that other companies wouldn't have, and then try to see, well, which customers would like that value, and try to sell it to those particular customers, whether it's through finding those keywords that those customers would look at, or just whether it's through marketing outside of Amazon in another way to bring them onto Amazon and our other sales platforms. That's how we would focus on it, I think.
Yeah.
A couple things to add. One, as a brand, yeah, the more you can differentiate yourself, and there's so many ways you can differentiate. One, you should have, an amazing listing, amazing photos, great packaging. All those things could be good differentiators, including things that, I've worked on for my brands, like licensing and patents. All those things could be great differentiators. One thing as far as pricing, it's good to pay attention to some key numbers. So for example, non-prime customers get free shipping at $25. So if your price is 23 or 24, you might actually get more sales at 25. If you have a price point of 12, you might have better sales at $12.50, where a customer buys two, they can get free shipping. So pay attention to some of those key numbers when you're figuring out your pricing.
Oh, that's great feedback. And then just going off of promotions, I know we mentioned that previously, Leron, you were talking about lightning deals there, but especially with Amazon announcing that they're getting rid of that sales price now, there's other ways to really show discounts, especially with the subscribe and save program, and also even having tiered promotions for larger quantities, that B2B aspect, however, more and so in the B2C area. So you can, for example, buy two, get 5% off, but also for brands, be really aware of that brand equity and how you have your brand perceived by customers. So maybe not going over a certain threshold for % off, but also giving that larger quantity discount. And also, I think this is huge, and just keeping in mind your bottom line when setting up promotions is that Amazon's commission is actually based on that regular price you're setting. However, it's not based on, maybe that promotional price. So a lot of sellers actually don't realize that. So product details page, going into that, I think a huge part of.
Are you? Can I ask you a question? Are you sure if that's the case, that your 15% commission is not based on the actual price you sold the item?
Yeah, it's based on actual price of the product.
Actual price you sold the item, including the discount, not the higher price.
Yeah, I think that's Megan, it's a good question. So I think what we had heard was, if your price was normally $100, Amazon would take their commission off of that, and if you lowered it to say $80, you're still paying the higher commission. So are you, Leron, are you seeing something different than that?
I think that's wrong, because think about if I run a sale, Amazon's going to charge a 15% off the selling price that the customer actually paid. I'm pretty sure that's accurate. You can go back and probably double check it, but I think it's always based on the price the item actually sold for.
Yeah, that's a good one. So let's double check on that for sure.
Yeah,
maybe people in the chat or questions can comment what their opinion is.
I love it. Yeah, that's an excellent point.
Yeah.
I actually don't know, but I would love to find out.
Well, hey, let's again, as a reminder, we've got a number of questions too, which I may just take a quick break here to take a couple of questions. If somebody out there's got the definitive answer, that's what we're here to do, right? We're all here to learn. So please put it in the chat.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of people coming in. Fee is based on actual sales price, so the actual revenue you generate from that item.
It's based on actual sales price.
Yep. Yeah. Well, good stuff. So hey, a couple of quick questions just so we kind of keep the flow going, because there's a number of questions. Again, please do continue to keep them coming, because we've got time. We've got about another 30 minutes or so. So this, no real kind of topic here, but a couple. So we were talking about pricing. So somebody on the webinar is asking, as a brand owner, what can be expected? And this is a tough one, but I think it's good for dialogue. What could be expected if we lower our price to counter competition? Will decreasing the price later cause resistance? And maybe, I think, Michael, you had talked about kind of messing with price there. Maybe you can build on that. What's your point of view? And Leron, certainly chime in after Michael throws his point of view out there.
I'm really sorry. Can you repeat that question again?
Yeah, for sure. So as a brand owner, what can be expected if we lower our price to counter the competition? Will decreasing the price later cause resistance?
I mean, for us, we're trying to think of it as a brand. We also sell in retail stores too, so we try to keep like MAP pricing, right? So we sell a $30 product. We don't want to lower it much because then we'll face resistance from the actual physical store owners who are reselling our products. And a lot of people are, even now, like when they go into a physical store, they might be price checking online. And so if we're just undercutting on Amazon, which Amazon, a lot of products do, people will just buy it there. So we would then upset those retail. So it's a balancing act that we really have to do. But I really wouldn't be able to answer it because we just try to keep our prices at the same point, give or take 10%. We do the time limited deals, but besides that, like we try to keep it not to upset our customers or anything, but we try to keep it at a solid price point.
And thank you for that point of view. And I remember, Leron, what you had said is you're in the camp of kind of raising your prices in Q4, just given the velocity. I mean, maybe just build on that, because I think to this person specifically, they're potentially lowering their price, but potentially increasing. Will they find resistance? So I guess, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so and I will decrease my price on, maybe I have some products that I brought in this year to test, and they were slow sellers, and I'm not going to replenish them. And so Q4 is probably the best time to sort of liquidate those products, and maybe you might need to lower price, and you just want to sort of move those products, and I have some of those, right? Not every product is a winning home run. As far as lowering your price, I think it depends on the type of product. So if you're selling a supplement or something that people are coming back and buying over and over again, you might want to pay attention to that. I think otherwise, people, I mean, if you think about the products you've bought on Amazon, after you buy them, how many more times do you go after to check the price if it's a one-time purchase, right? So yeah. I think if it's a one-time purchase, probably not a big concern. If it's something people are buying over and over again, then yeah, if you sold something for 25, somebody comes back a month later and it's 35, they might be more resistant to buy.
Yeah, I think that's really good guidance. So thanks, guys, for answering that. Megan, I guess back to you.
Yeah, so just jumping into some product detail page information, we talked a little bit about copy and really just providing a great customer experience, even enhanced brand content for those brand registered sellers, but really just providing high quality content here. So it's including the images. I know you can attest. That's huge when marketing your product, having those alternate lifestyle images outside the packaging, and also an enhanced brand content. That's just additional placement to tell your brand story. So that's huge. Also product titles and product detail, bullet points, description, make sure those are compliant, and just really showcasing your benefits there. And then, go ahead, Leron.
Sorry, just to jump in on enhanced brand content. It's super important, and over the last couple of months, it's just become even more important, because on mobile, it's now the default, before you see the bullets or anything else, where it used to be before you had to kind of click in on product and features to see the content. Now it's default. And, we know last year, I think about 72% of Amazon shoppers in Q4 used mobile. And so if you have the ability to put on to EBC on your listings, then you should definitely focus in the next, few weeks on implementing that.
Yeah, and I think this is Will again from the brand side at Teikametrics. When you're thinking about, what the first impression is of a potential customer, it's really the images. And what does an actual product cost to photograph and get on there to get like very professional photography? It's in the, it can be less than $100 per product. All you have to do is send in your product to that company, they take pictures of it, and then they send it back to you. It's super inexpensive. And really, when you're comparing your product against somebody else, there's millions of people looking at this stuff. How do you want to be portrayed? How is your brand portrayed? Something that I think about, and it's really important to, when we look at our most successful sellers, they all have beautiful product photography, and it's an investment that will pay for itself 100%. So.
Amazon shoppers are so visual too. They need that visual aspect. They're not always going to scroll to the bottom to read your description there. So
I think it snaps into what Leron was saying about mobile too. I mean, that's going to be the biggest footprint on your screen. So great guidance there.
Yeah. So just jumping off of making sure you.
I had a question, if that's okay. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, go. We love it.
just in particular with the EDC, like that content that you can create, we found, and we weren't 100% sure, is that trackable by Amazon? Like, does that count for the keyword research? Because it's replacing the product description, which used to actually be in the keyword searches. We're not 100% sure about how to optimize that.
Yeah, so it's not indexed, but you could still have the old product description in the back end. So that can possibly get indexed there, but EBC is not indexed, but I think it has been proven to show that it does improve conversions. So you probably, if you have some keywords in there, you probably want to try to, kind of weave them into your bullets, title, and back-end search terms.
Yeah, Michael, I think that's a good hack for sellers on the line is, if you do utilize EBC, also have that, description in the back end filled out so you can index for search for, maybe terms that you would have had there instead of enhanced brand content.
Okay, thank you. I didn't know it still stays in there in the listing.
Hey, this is a meaty topic, right? So I'm curious for both of you, maybe Leron, I'll throw to you first, but like the potential to use info from, say, Facebook or Google AdWords to bring into copy for title for EBC and headline search. Like, do you have a point of view, or how are you using Facebook and Google to do that?
I mean, for me, EBC is all about just conversions because none of that actually gets indexed, so it's not a part of my keyword research process. So for me, it's just having a great, brand story, differentiation, and just awesome, images, lifestyle images, and product in use, and how our product is different maybe than the competition. So I don't really utilize, sort of Facebook data or Google. I will do some external advertising to my listing, let's say using Facebook, but as far as like data there and how it impacts EBC, it's not something that I utilize. It's really something I just use for content for conversions.
Awesome, thanks guys, very helpful.
Yeah,
go ahead, Michael. Yeah.
Oh, I do the same thing. It's all about good images. That's the number one thing. It's just a chance to showcase more images and try to get the sale if they scroll down on the desktop or in mobile. So really, I don't do it for keyword search. It's more about trying to push the sale with the good images and the other sales tactics there.
So somebody in the chat, typed in, I called and asked Amazon to confirm if I sell an item at 100, put on sale at 70, I get charged fees based on 100. What I would tell you is that Seller Central reps don't always know what the truth is. So check your transactions, and I think some people have done that here. And if check their transactions and the payments, and there you can see the exact fees you're paying on your sales price, and that will give you the answer. But don't always trust Seller Central reps.
Well, Leron, and again, Leron, thank you for also managing the chat too. And again, for everybody that's on the line, we got hundreds of folks that are on the line. It's or on the webinar. This is what it's about, right? This is about just learning from one another and trying to get to the central sources of the truth. And so listen, let's we're about 20 minutes away. Megan, where are we going next? We're gonna wrap up here on customer returns.
So we want to touch upon customer returns. We're talking about setting customer expectations really through the product pages, what content you're putting out and how you're portraying your products. I think this is huge because a lot of sellers come back and look at products with their highest return rate, and we actually recommend looking at those reviews and also the return reason. That's going to be a big indicator to see if you're actually properly setting those expectations. The return reason, for example, which you can find in your fulfillment reports. You can see return reasons such as, apparel too small, too large, wrong style. Is it defective? Is it damaged? So really just portraying that right quality and that material, for example, if you're selling clothing, that's just really gonna help you in the long run talking about your bottom line sales, your top line sales when returns get factored in January. So really being able to take control of your returns here.
So on to planning and implementing an advertising strategy for the holiday season. We'll start off with a poll. What we're going to focus on here is a lot of strategy on sponsored products, but also headline search ads. So if you're a brand owner or brand registered seller on Amazon, you'll note that became available a few months ago in Seller Central. Michael, Leron, are either of you using headline search or sponsored products today?
We
Yeah,
do
so
use that. Oh, sorry. No, please go. Lee.
no, go ahead, Michael.
Okay. Well, we do use the search and headline search, but we also make it specific, tailored to the event. Like if we're going to be doing it for holiday sales, like maybe starting December 1st, we'll actually start running, saying a couple things for Christmas. It's so new that I don't think we've actually done it for last Christmas though. In terms of the headline search. So this is still something new that we're doing. We do some now that is just generally related to the industry, like the outdoor industry, trying to encourage people to get more active while buying our product as well.
That's great.
Yep. So yeah, we definitely utilize sponsored products on every single product. I've also been using headline ads and product display ads through the AMS platform. I actually like the AMS platform better than the Seller Central platform for headline ads. But yeah, definitely something you should be using. You can get, especially with headline ads, you can get much lower cost per click just because not everybody is utilizing it. And I think the biggest thing is when I do headline ads is I group keywords together to try to target the headline that I'm actually writing, so it's very closely matched to what the customer is searching for. And a lot of testing different ads, product display ads. We test one ASIN or one interest per product display because there really is no reporting, and that way we can isolate if something's working or not. So yeah, and I think throughout the fourth quarter you want to have increased budget, so that you don't run out of budget in the middle of the day, and kind of look at it more closely during that time.
Hey, just a quick one, Leron, for you, and somebody I'm sure in the room knows this, but you're using AMS and Seller Central. Is there a split there that you'd be able to share with the group?
Yeah, well, so for sponsored products, the reporting is much better in Seller Central. So all my sponsored product ads are done in Seller Central, and then all my headline ads and product display ads are done in AMS. I probably do spend more money in, probably 70% of my spend is in sponsored products, just because I think they get more traffic and more clicks because it's more sort of native, within the search results on Amazon than, product display ads and headline ads that just don't get as many clicks. But definitely, taking advantage of the additional traffic and the lower cost per click of headline ads, I think is smart if you are, testing and setting it up properly, and, start doing it before Q4 so that you can optimize by the time Q4 rolls around or peak season.
Awesome. Yeah, and the poll's up, results are in. So it looks like a majority of sellers on the line said they're increasing all bids and budgets during the holiday, and we'll go through our best recommendations there. You don't want to just blindly be increasing your bids, but there are some strategies that you want to take. Leron, you were starting to say something there.
Yeah. So one thing I'll add here is a plug for Teikametrics, because I use the Teikametrics software, and talking about bidding, and so I have a set ACoS goal, and my bidding is automated based on my goals. So that's I think one of the big advantages of using the software, just all the data you have available. So definitely can help you better manage your bidding and your overall profitability.
Thanks, Leron. We appreciate that. And I think the thing that you mentioned is really important, which is goal. So, whether you do use our platform or you're just doing sponsored products on your own, you really need to keep a goal in mind. Or whether you're developing your campaigns or running your strategy, you want to be thinking about how much are you willing to spend per sale. ACoS is a big tracker that a lot of sellers follow, and you want to be building your campaigns based on that particular objective. Do you want increased sales? Do you want profitability? Or maybe you just care about product awareness, in which your ACoS is higher and the amount you're willing to spend is maybe more or break even than what you're selling for, as a way to get your product out there.
Yeah,
like
when a product during Q4.
What's that?
Oh, I was just saying, along with the product awareness, this is especially true if you're launching a product, for example, during increased traffic in Q4. So to touch upon spend, that's also going to go alongside your goals. You really want to be focusing on budgets. I believe one of you mentioned that, making sure you just have ample budget, monitoring it, and also just being aware of any out of budget alerts. Your campaign will not run if you've hit that cap for the day, especially if you're on the East Coast and the West Coast is unable to see the ads for the remainder. That's going to be huge, and you're going to miss out on those potential eyes on your product. So really being focused on budget and also spend allocation. Where are you going to shift that spend? So being able to actually push spend towards peak periods when there's increased traffic. Maybe it's around Cyber Monday. Maybe it's right before Christmas. So really being able to focus on budget there, and also even bidding as well.
Yeah, and I think budget's extremely important too in just setting that initial budget. I've noticed a lot of sellers, they'll just put up $1,000. They say that they'll never hit it, but just be mindful of the fact that that is a budget. That's what you're telling Amazon you're willing to spend. So, be careful going into the holiday season of increasing your budgets. You just be sure that's how much money you're willing to spend on advertising. I think spend allocation is really important too. So over the life cycle of sponsored products, and Michael and Liron, you can attest to this, you want to be starting, mostly using automatic campaigns, understanding what the customer search activity is like. Start using manual campaigns as well. You might have some ideas of what drives search to your products, but over time, where sellers get the most value from sponsored products and the most profitability is by using manual campaigns, because you're picking out those winning keywords. You're really allowing your sellers to go, or your customers to go exactly to your products based on those keywords. Liron and Michael, I guess Liron, you go first. Do you see a shift in spend over time through automatic to manual? Do you use both automatic and manual? What's your strategy when it comes to using both match or both campaign types?
Sure, yeah. So I start out using an automatic campaign and a broad-based manual campaign. And what I do is I'll use a keyword tool, and I'll download as many keywords as I can, really, that are related to the product. I don't necessarily even vet those keywords in the beginning. I'll use a tool, download 500 keywords, throw them all into a broad campaign, and let that run for 10, 15 days, and then let the data and the market kind of tell me what keywords and what search terms customers are using, and then take those that have converted into at least a couple of sales, both on the auto side and on the manual broad side, and then move those into a more direct phrase and exact match targeting. So it's pretty much exactly that. The auto is, I let Amazon choose the keywords. The broad-based, I kind of let a tool and run a lot of keywords, and then from there you can essentially pull, and then I'll generally keep running that auto and that phrase and exact match campaign. And sometimes, Amazon's algorithm, the auto campaign will get better over time as Amazon starts to understand your product. And so I'll generally have both the auto and the manual campaign running, but continuously optimize and continuously add those negative match keywords to eliminate the wasted ad spend.
Yeah, a few great tips there. And Michael, what about yourself?
I definitely second a lot what Liron was saying. Especially going from broad to specific, we find that, there's maybe about, if we throw 500 keywords, 20, 50 of them will really be the good sellers. And that's the one that we focus on. That's the one that we might raise our budget on. Right. And then we start dwindling down those keywords to the ones that really work. I mean, not to plug Teikametrics again, and they're not paying me for this, but it's really been a valuable help for that. And just finding out which keywords are really the best sellers is a lot easier through that software.
Well, you guys, again, thank you for the kind words, and quite honestly, just for the group, we've got a very strong relationship with our seller community, and I think it's important. When we built this sponsored products platform, we did it ourselves. We walked in your shoes for nearly 2 years, so we have a pretty good idea what that looks like, and then also just a relationship that we have with Amazon. So we go to Amazon, we have a very tight relationship with them, and our playbook is aligned. And so I think, again, you guys, thank you for the kind words. It's just working together. That's all it comes down to, and trying to provide the best, the best solution for sellers. So look, guys, we got about 15 more minutes or so. Where are we now? We're understanding the true value of bids here. Who's running this bid?
Awesome. Yeah. So I think this is probably one of the most important slides when it comes to sponsor products, and that is understanding the true value of your bid. So what I mean by that is a lot of sellers, and what we've seen in the marketplace is, chasing after ACOS. If the classic example is, if I have a keyword that's 10% ACOS and my objective is to never go above 25%, I'm going to raise that keyword bid. If I'm over that threshold, maybe at 75%, to me, I'm panicking as a seller. I'm going to lower that bid. There's a lot more at stake than just ACOS, and that really goes down to understanding your goals, understanding the true value of what you're bidding for. So when you're thinking about sponsored products and you're changing your keyword bids, think about impressions, clicks, conversion rates. If your conversion rate continues to increase, but your ACOS is going up, don't lower that bid. You want to be getting your product in front of more people by increasing your bid. Higher conversion rate means you're getting more quality clicks to convert into sales. And then the last point I want to get out before moving on to match types is understand the percentage of the product sales price you are willing to invest in clicks. So if you're selling a product for $20 as an example and your margin's 20%, that's, the math would tell you that $4 is your break-even cost on advertising. So that is your cost, and you want to look at the clicks that you're generating per sale. If you're spending more than $4 and you're trying to break even, that's probably not the right objective or goal that you're going towards. So before I move on, Michael, I'll start with you. How important is margin and just understanding your products, how much you make when you run your sponsor products?
I know, well, because we sell, in ones with replaceable filters. So the idea of the water filter is if they're selling a replaceable filter, they are going to be coming back to us. We do use like the subscribe and save method. So we don't really think about it in terms of one sale. We hope to have customers do coming back as well. It is a lot harder to nurture those leads through Amazon rather than our own website. But that's something that we're going to continue to look into. So you're right. Like if we break even on a customer, it's okay. But then we want to make sure we give them a good experience so that maybe they'll tell other customers. But generally, we do want to at least break even. We don't want to go below that. So we are kind of like targeting an ACOS number at least.
Sure.
And it's different for each different product.
Yeah, and I think Liron, I think what's really important too is advertising sales are complementary to your organic sales. So the more advertising sales that you generate, that is going to impact the organic ranking. You just have to be, mindful of doing it profitably. And there might be some products that through advertising, you might be willing to take a loss, but overall your revenue may be going up and your bottom line may be going up as well.
Yeah, especially during a product launch, for example, you might have that higher threshold.
Yeah, so and just that's a really good point. So I like what you said, I would call that like what your true ACOS is, right? Looking at your total sales and then what percentage of that did you spend on advertising. One other tip is, you may want to consider having a budget, right? So if in let's say in September you sold $50,000 worth of product, your budget for October would be 10% of that on advertising, which would be like $5,000. But then if you had, $100,000 a month in October, you would increase your budget to $10,000 for the next month. But if you had a bad month, it makes sure that the following month you're not spending as much on advertising. So it's I look at about 10% of my sales is kind of like what I budget in terms of spend on my on advertising.
That's actually great advice, going back to the allocating your budget to those key periods, looking at it more of a numerical way instead of kind of just throwing out money, but using the numbers.
Yeah, and with match types, it really does come down to throwing out money, and you'll notice over time, using the different types of match keywords will help you become more profitable. And I'll use this simple example to just show you, how a keyword goes through the funnel of the different match types. But if you think about a broad keyword such as women's boots, there's, thousands, maybe millions of hits to that category. So you're probably going to have a very high ACOS because that keyword is very broad. But if you start to look at how are customers actually searching for your products, what are your products? If you're selling, Sorel boots as an example, maybe you want to use the phrase black Sorel boots. So as you move from broad to phrase and then phrase to exact, you'll notice that the keyword is becoming much more long-tailed, and that in turn is likely to have a lower ACOS and a better margin for you because you're essentially going and finding exactly what the customer is looking for and putting your ad right there in front of them to take advantage of and purchase.
Yeah, and just a lot less competition on that as well.
Leland, go ahead.
Yeah, I would say along with that, with this strategy, I would use a lower cost per bid or lower bid on broad, right? Because you're casting a wide net and it's not as specific. And then, so if I'm targeting a keyword, I'm, generally bidding, the least on my auto, a little bit higher on my broad match manual, a little bit higher on my phrase, and higher on my exact, because I know that if I get that exact match, it's so highly targeted that I'm willing to pay the extra cost to capture that customer.
I think it's excellent. Hey guys, just quickly, good questions coming in, so I got a couple quickly for the group. First one, as of late, we've noticed auto campaigns are increasingly dependent on our back-end search terms. Would you ever put holiday search terms to help impact holiday-related searches and improve the auto campaigns? We might maybe take a crack at that. We can pass to Michael.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Amazon will restrict certain type of language in your listings. I think where you can be, profitable and efficient is testing those keywords in your manual campaigns, right? So you have a lot of leeway when you can, promote certain keywords on Amazon through advertising. So I would definitely suggest not necessarily putting those holiday terms into the back end of your listing, but maybe creating a holiday specific campaign where you might have a higher threshold or a higher goal threshold for how much you're willing to spend. Because again, you think about holiday search terms, whether that's, Hanukkah gifts or Christmas gifts, the search is going to be very broad, at a higher cost. So I would definitely recommend splitting it out into its own manual campaign and controlling how much you're willing to spend per those keywords.
And I've actually seen some sellers utilize some historical data from their customer search report, this time last year, and actually mine out those, ones that are producing multiple conversions and actually targeting lower ACOS ones and adding those back in. So
I think that's great. That's great advice. Michael, anything else to kind of round out there? Or are we good?
I think you guys all said it perfectly. I mean, this is a really well answered question.
Awesome. Well, thanks again.
Cool.
Yeah, Mike, keep going.
Yeah, and I'll do a light touch on headline search ads. I know we spoke about it throughout that poll, but again, just a reminder to sellers out there, get registered through brand registry. That does allow you to utilize headline search ads. And I guess, you've had time to sit here and digest the information on this slide, but my biggest takeaway is submit your campaigns early. Amazon does review every single headline search ad that's submitted. So it's not a computer algorithm that's going through. It's actually a human in Seattle reviewing each of the ads. So get them in early, especially in the holidays. That, several thousand other brands are doing it.
I do have a question. In terms of the headline search ads, does Teikametrics plan on doing it? It's more of a creative ad that you have to create rather than just a pure keyword search. So I mean, does Teikametrics have any plans for this to kind of either automate it or kind of make it easier to process these kind of headline search ads?
Yeah, it's so Michael, it's such a softball. Thank you very much. So the two things. Firstly, we do it for a lot of our sellers manually. So we actually have a number of folks that we do that for. But what we're doing, not to belabor the point, but we're running the same play that we did with sponsored products, is we're just trying to walk, a day in the life of a seller. So our team is doing it manually as it exists today. And we actually have a call tomorrow, coincidentally, with some of the leadership at Amazon directly related to that API. So they haven't released it in the Seller Central side yet. So we're working with them on the AMS side and on the Seller Central side to help them bring that to market. So the answer is coming your way someday soon. Yeah, we're doing it today. Yeah.
One thing to add here is that the benefit of if you know how to get anybody can get access to the AMS platform. If you know how to get access to that, you don't need to be brand registered. You can actually advertise any brand on Amazon if you have access to the AMS platform. Even if you're doing things like merch, you can advertise that on AMS. So it gives you a little bit more leeway if you know how to get access to it.
I think that's an excellent point, Liron.
Thanks, Liron.
Yeah, thank you.
So just rounding out the remainder here, enhancing the customer experience is important. So won't go into too much detail here, but just think about the effects that your products can have on your customers, whether it's leaving a note in your packaging or having a follow-up email system. That is something that's very important during the holiday when a lot of eyes are on your products. But throughout the holiday, just keep a track of your performance metrics. Some of these things can lead to suspension and account closure. So make sure that your orders are being fulfilled. If you're fulfilling through merchant, make sure your order defect rate is in check. Keep an eye out on negative feedback and ways that you can address that. Just as a way it's just normal holiday hygiene when it comes to maintaining some of these customer metrics. So key takeaways from today. First off, Michael and Liron, thank you for taking the time. Really good having the conversation with you guys. I think we've really ripped through a lot of content, so thank you. But key takeaways that we've come up with, and I'll pass the mic over to you all to share what do you think is most beneficial during the time period. But definitely we can all agree that adequate inventory levels is really important. Maintaining stock and rank. Target profitable products. Liron, you're a fan of the 80-20 rule and making sure that you're spending a lot of your efforts on the most profitable products. Sponsored products and pricing are a lot of ways or two different levers that you can use during the holiday season to slow down inventory, promote inventory, and then delight your customers through great customer service. I think there is a lot to say about nice packaging, a great brand story on your listings and throughout. So Liron, I'll hand it over to you first. Any takeaways that you want to leave with the audience today?
Yeah, Q4 only comes around once a year, so be aggressive, take advantage of it, and this is your time to kind of maximize the benefits of being on the world's most popular e-commerce platform. So don't lose focus, and make sure to take full advantage of the opportunities that are available to you, because it only comes once a year.
I think that's brilliant, and I'm going to build on that with some data, and then pass to Michael, and then we do have a couple of quick questions before we wrap up. So at our company, we oversee in the neighborhood of $6 billion in transactions. So we have a lot of data in which to look at, and I'll give you some bookends here. So in terms of percentage of the year relative to sell-through, about 15% happens in October, somewhere around 19% happens in November, and about 20 to 21% happens in December. So it's nearly 55% of the year happens in Q4. Exactly as Liron said, it comes around one time a year, so let's go get it, right? Now, just as a quick reminder, January is 12% of the year. So if you compare that to, say, February at 6%, March at 4%, April at 3%, that's going to vary on category, of course, right? But it's one of those things is, look, Q4 comes once a year, but don't forget about January either. January is a monster month, so be prepared for that as well. Just want to build on Liron's point. And Michael, over to you. Final thoughts for the group.
Okay, I definitely agree with January. You know, a lot of people get money for Christmas if they have friends and family who are terrible gift givers, and they get money. So a lot of people do buy products in January still. So definitely don't forget about that. Plan from now, whether you have products in Amazon now or in the future. You know, really build for the whole year and plan it out in the future so you're not really like rushing ahead. I personally, like, we're already looking at the beginning of 2018. What kind of new products are we launching? What kind of keywords are we going to be focusing on with those new products, even before the product launches? So plan now, especially if you can. But besides that, really, like, just go and get it, because Amazon's one platform, but there's also a lot of other places, wholesale places, your own website. Like, use Amazon as part of a platform, but there's many other places to do marketing and sell online and in stores as well.
Amazing.
That reminds me of a key phrase. I used to be in a bank management. I used to have a manager that they used to say, proper planning prevents poor performance. And it's always kind of stuck with me. So totally agree with you.
Yeah, I feel guilty saying something after that beautiful statement, Liron. I'll try and be limited. I guess we'll wrap with thank you. This has been an extraordinary webinar, certainly from our perspective. We certainly hope it was valuable for the group online. And everybody, thank you for spending time together. I mean, it is super busy, right? And to take an hour and a half out of your day is very meaningful, so we hope it's valuable. As mentioned, we will be sending the recording out along with a couple other things. As a reminder, we do have a free trial for the Sponsored Products Optimizer. It's in some ways it's award-winning. We've got hundreds and hundreds of sellers that are using the platform now. It just gets better every day. And then as always, we try to keep a dial tone in terms of the number of webinars and information that we try and give out. We've got another one on October 25th. We call it 9 Secrets to Marketing Your Brand This Holiday. Again, a lot of good quality information there, and hopefully get a lot of questions answered. So I think that's what we've got to share today. So everybody around the table and around the world, thank you for joining, and looking forward to just helping in any way we can. Everybody have a great rest of your week.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.